Adaku's parents disowned her and sent her away, leaving her to cater for herself and her unborn baby at such a tender age. Once upon a time, there lived a very beautiful woman named Adaku. Adaku got pregnant at a very young age. Her parents found out about her pregnancy and inquired to know who had gotten her pregnant, but Adaku was so afraid to reveal his identity, and this got her parents so furious. Unable to bear the shame, Adaku's parents disowned her and sent her away, leaving her to cater for herself and her unborn baby at such a tender age. Unsure of what to do, Adaku wandered far away from her village to a place where no one knew her. She sought for shelter, but no one was kind enough to offer her a roof over her head. So Adaku slept under trees and tables in the market, and this was her life till she met a very old woman who had compassion for her and took her to her home. The old woman was a widow who lost her husband many years ago. She had two adult children who lived far away from her, so she lived all alone in her small hut. Adaku stayed with the old woman who looked after her during her pregnancy, and after several months, Adaku gave birth to a very beautiful girl. She named her daughter Chisom, and the old woman, whose name was Ngozi, became like a mother to Adaku. Ngozi's compassion and kindness created a bond between them that went beyond blood ties. As the years went by, Adaku and her daughter Chisom thrived under the care of the old woman who took care of them like her own children. Adaku later started up a small business to contribute to the household, whilst Chisom grew into an extremely beautiful young woman. Her mother Adaku still looked extremely young, and oftentimes people mistook them for sisters. One calm evening, Adaku was returning home from her village kiosk when she came across a very handsome man. The man looked new in the village as he approached Adaku to ask for directions. Shockingly, he was heading her way, so they strolled together and began to talk. The young man by name Chijioke just returned back to the village after so many years of being away. He could barely remember what his village looked like, but had a faint memory of how to locate his home. They walked for a few minutes and arrived at a small hut where Chijioke revealed was his family home. It was then that Adaku realized that Chijioke was the old woman's son. Chijioke too was shocked to realize that Adaku lived in his old mother's hut. His old mother Ngozi was so happy to see him, as she had not seen him in almost a decade. By evening, Chisom also returned from the farm and met Chijioke. Everyone was happy about his return, as they saw how happy his mother was to have him around. Chijioke and Adaku began to spend quality time together. They became fond of each other and soon fell in love. One hot afternoon, Adaku was returning home from the farm when she came across her daughter Chisom talking to a young man in the village. She approached them and asked what was going on, when Chisom introduced the man to her as her friend. What was shocking was when Chisom introduced her mother to the young man as her sister. Adaku could not understand why her daughter Chisom would do such a thing, but she made sure not to make a fuss out of the whole situation. From that day forward, Adaku noticed how distant her daughter was and decided to talk to her about it. She wondered what could have gone wrong and thought it wise to have a conversation with her beloved daughter. A discussion that she thought would end up on a happy note turned into a brawl as Chisom angrily asked her mother why she had to fall pregnant at a very young age. She called her mother terrible names and walked out angrily, shattering her mother's heart into a million pieces. Adaku stood as she watched her daughter storm off in anger. She wondered what she did wrong to warrant such level of anger from her daughter. What she did not know was that anytime a man Chisom liked saw her mother Adaku, they immediately showed their interest in her mother, and this made Chisom so jealous as she hated to be in competition with her mother who still looked so young. As days passed, Chisom stopped talking to her mother completely. Her mother did all she could to find out what the problem was, but this made everything worse as Chisom informed her mother of her decision to get married and leave the house. Adaku was shocked to hear this and asked Chisom to bring the man home as she would like to see the man who had an interest in marrying her daughter. Chisom reluctantly agreed, and a few weeks later, she brought the young man named Ahanna to introduce to her mother. Adaku, on sighting the young man, did not seem pleased. She asked him so many questions about himself as well as his family, and with each question, Chisom could feel her mother's displeasure. Chisom's heart sank as her mother, with a stern expression, warned her against marrying Ahanna after the introduction ceremony. Men from that village have a bad reputation in marriage, her mother declared cryptically. Despite Chisom's pleas for her mother to change her mind, Adaku remained adamant, and this made Chisom to hate her mother even more. One night, Adaku noticed that her daughter Chisom had not returned. She waited till nightfall, but Chisom was still nowhere to be found. Adaku then decided to search around the village for her daughter but couldn't find her anywhere. She then returned home, hoping that Chisom might have returned while she was away, but when she got home, Chisom had still not returned. Worried and unable to sleep, Adaku set out the next morning in search of her daughter. Chijioke volunteered to follow Adaku to search for Chisom, and they both journeyed for hours to the village where Ahanna was from, as that was the only place they believed Chisom would have gone at a time like this. They asked around the village for Ahanna and were directed to Ahanna's family house. To their greatest surprise, they met a gathering of people at the house and noticed that a marriage ceremony was being conducted. Chisom was getting married to Ahanna on that fateful day, and Adaku screamed on hearing this. She then hurriedly jumped in and disrupted the marriage ceremony, and everyone looked in confusion as they wondered what could be going on. Chisom, with tears in her eyes, asked her mother why she was blatantly against her happiness. Her mother, on hearing this, felt so terrible about everything that had been happening. She could sense the hatred building up in Chisom's heart and knew that if nothing was done now, she could lose her daughter forever. So, she told her daughter without mincing any words that Ahanna was her brother. Everyone's mouth opened in shock as they could not understand what Adaku was talking about. It was then that Adaku revealed how she fell in love with Ahanna's father when she was still young and got pregnant for him. However, when she told him about the pregnancy, he threatened to kill her if she ever told anyone that he was responsible. Young and naive, she feared for her life and couldn't tell anyone, not even her parents, that Kanayo was responsible for the pregnancy. Her inability to tell her parents who was responsible resulted in them disowning her at a very tender age, leaving her on the streets for months before the old woman Ngozi stepped in and accepted her into her home. All these years, she kept it a secret till when Ahanna visited and she realized that he was Kanayo's son. The revelation hung heavy in the air as silence settled over the stunned crowd. Chisom's eyes widened with disbelief, and Ahanna stood frozen, trying to comprehend the shocking truth. The anguish in Adaku's voice echoed the deep scars of her past. As the truth came to light, the villagers began to understand the complex web of relationships that had brought them to this moment. Adaku's desperate plea for forgiveness penetrated the heart of her daughter Chisom, who now understood why her mother was blatantly against her union with Ahanna. She had to grapple with the harsh reality that the man she loved so much was in fact her brother. This was a painful time for Chisom and Ahanna, who almost committed an abomination by getting married. Although Ahanna's father died many years ago, his actions still came back to haunt his children and family. As the months passed, Ahanna and Chisom fought off their feelings as they came to terms with their reality. They later found people they loved and got married, putting the past behind them. Adaku too also got married to the old woman's son Chijioke, and everyone lived happily ever after. The lesson to be learned from this story is that every action and decision we take in life has its consequences. This story imparts the timeless moral lesson that we are architects of our own destiny, accountable for the ripples our choices create. Whether seemingly insignificant or monumental, every decision sets forth a chain of reaction influencing the course of our lives and the lives of those around us. Therefore, we should tread carefully, recognizing the profound impact our actions can have. I hope you enjoyed the story.
Like, subscribe and leave a comment. It helps us grow our channel. I'll see you in our next story. Bye.